Good evening. This is Jane Onyinyechi Ikezin. My dad always said ignorance is a terrible disease that requires surgical operation without anesthesia. That is very true. I get three questions a lot that I've been hearing about. Number one is, where is Nnamdi Kanu? Number two is, does the disappearance of Nnamdi Kanu mean that the struggle is dead or over? And number three is, why was there ever an agitation for Biafra, and why is there still an agitation for Biafra? I'll take up the first question. Where is Nnamdi Kanu? I do not know where Nnamdi Kanu is, but there's something in the law called causation. But for the interference of the Nigerian government through the Operation Python dance in Nnamdi Kanu's compound in Umuahia, Nnamdi Kanu would most likely still be present to answer questions. I do not think that he would intentionally miss a court appearance and risk jeopardizing the struggle or risk putting questions into the minds of people about where he is or where he is not. This is the man who roamed freely in Umuahia in Abia State without fear, suddenly disappears. So where is Nnamdi Kanu? You should ask the Nigerian government where Nnamdi Kanu is. I encourage everyone to write to the government, ask them, where is Nnamdi Kanu? The second, has the struggle died because Nnamdi Kanu disappeared? The answer is simple, no. This struggle is pregnant. Circa 2006-2007, I was a student. I went to the Independence Day celebration of Nigeria, and I had a sign. I wore green, white, green in celebration of Nigeria, but I also remembered my roots, and I had a sign that said, celebrate Nigeria, but remember Biafra, because I wanted people to be conscious of what was lost. I wanted people to be conscious of the present marginalization, even at that time. That was the year, I believe, that Patience Ozokwo, the actress, came to the Nigerian Day Parade, and I made it a point to take up my sign close to her so she could read it, because I know she's of Igbo extraction, and I wanted people to remember what we've lost. I wanted them to remember our past. So while we celebrate Nigeria, we should remember Biafra. Then I was still hopeful that there could be a better Nigeria. Like most of you, I was very hopeful. I was a proud Nigerian, but also a proud person of Biafran heritage, and I just did not want the lives lost to be forgotten. And I also wanted to change the present situation and hope that we would have improvement. But now I know, after all these years, it seems that all hope is lost because of the type of leaders that we have. They are not concerned about the citizenry. They are simply concerned about themselves and their pockets. And the constant and systematic marginalization of the indigenous people of Biafra has continued throughout the 60s and continues till today, 2017. There is no future for the marginalized in the present day Nigeria. So the only future that we have is to have a sovereign state of Biafra. There's a famous saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Why should we accept mediocrity? Why is it okay to be the best of the worst and be proud of it? And for those people saying, well, Nigeria is not the only country, what about this other African country, or what about this other Asian country? Why is it acceptable? Who cares how any other place is? Why can't we want to be the best? Why can't we look at the countries that are good and say we should be like them, we should emulate them? Why the continuous agitation? Those are the reasons. And I'll further illustrate by giving three stories, one of which is an anecdote. My mom had a restaurant in Port Harcourt in Nigeria years ago, and there was a man there known as Until Economy Improved. I never understood why he was called Until Economy Improved until one day while I was at the restaurant. He would come in, he would order food, but without meat. And when they would ask him if he wanted meat, he would say no, because he thought without meat the food would be cheaper. So he said, no, just give me without meat until the economy improved. I always wondered if that man never ate meat. In one of Fela's songs back in the 80s, he talked about a man that couldn't afford to buy a fan because he kept waiting until the price of fan would drop. So he was always hot in his room, but he would refuse to buy a fan because he was waiting for the price to drop. I sit down and I think if that man ever got a fan, because the price of fan never dropped. Things in Nigeria just kept getting worse. And then there was a comedy show called by Uche Uwago. My dad used to play this CD at home all the time. And there he joked of a man who went to visit a friend and he was served food. When he opened up the food, he saw stockfish, what we Igbos know as Uboroko. And he said, "Nna Kiowanya." And we're talking about years ago. This one is a comedy show from the 90s. So things have been bad from the beginning, from inception, and it just continued to get worse. Why are we accepting mediocrity? Some people are hungry for real. And Haninana Masho wa George, suffering and smiling, like the song said. I refuse to accept mediocrity. I think as a people we can do better than that. And since Nigeria has shown that it is not willing to embrace all of its citizens and does not consider most of its citizens as equal citizens of the country, then why not let us part ways peacefully? There is no reason for strife. There is no reason for war. As the so-called giant of Africa, if it can still even hold that title, why not show the rest of the world that we can have a peaceful cessation without war? It is evident that people of Biafran extraction are poorly treated in Nigeria. Look at who occupies the government offices. Look at where all the money goes. Look at where the most of Nigerian wealth comes from. And then compare it to the areas that the wealth comes from, how developed they are, or the lack of development in those areas. What is it that we have to be proud of? October 1st, 2017, Nigeria just became 57 years old. What was there to celebrate? 57 years of no light, 57 years of extreme poverty for most of the masses, 57 years of continuous decline of the institutions, the hospitals, the schools, 57 years of increasingly just depreciation of the culture. What about the mass migration out of Nigeria? Every young person, almost every young person, is looking for a way out. Lack of security, even for those who are successful, those who have financial success. If you talk to them, they're always out of the country because of what? Lack of security. So what is it that we're celebrating? So for anyone who questions the agitation for Biafra, I suggest that you go into your history. Listen to the sides, listen to the views that people have, and make an informed decision. The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different result. Why don't we do something different for a change?